History has proven time and time again that an aerial platform can become virtually immortal if its architecture allows it to be constantly reborn. One such platform is the F-15EX Eagle II, which Boeing calls nothing less than a digital pathfinder for in-gat fighters. After all, the solutions honed on it in the field of software architecture, digital design, and integration of new systems become the basis for the sixth generation of US fighters. Today, we'll be finding out whether the evolution in Eagle II is a logical end to the F-15 lifecycle, or whether we are indeed witnessing the birth of a new paradigm where older aircraft will be able to compete even with the latest unmanned systems. In the early 1970s, the US Air Force Command had to think seriously about losing air superiority, especially against the backdrop of a not-so-successful experience in Vietnam. The McDonnell Douglas F-4 Phantom II, although powerful, turned out to be too heavy, insufficiently maneuverable, and critically dependent on missiles in air combat, where the decisive role was still given to the cannon duel of aircraft. An unpleasant paradox arose in that the US, which had technical superiority, began to lose combat aircraft and pilots. The country demanded a fundamentally new fighter. The answer was to go back to the roots and create a dedicated air superiority fighter where every element of the design would be dedicated to one goal: winning the air battle. This is how the FX program came into being, with proposals submitted by Fairchild Republic, McDonnell Douglas, and North American Rockwell. NASA was even approached with a request to act as a supporting expert structure involved in developing aerodynamic solutions and testing. Interestingly enough, FX skipped the lion's share of the usual prototype stages, moving straight into full-scale development. This saved not only time, but also avoided possible program cancellation. The Eagle's first flight took place in July of 1972, and a year later, its success was cemented by the two-seat F-15B modification. The F-15 was the first aircraft in a long time that was built without compromise. It was not a fighter bomber, an interceptor, or a carrier-based hybrid. The Eagle was a purebred hunter created solely for dominance in the skies. With a top speed of Mach 2.5 and an advanced ANPG-63 nose radar, the fighter could detect even low-flying enemy aircraft at a range of up to 200 m. Moreover, this radar system was the first to use a programmable system processor, which allowed for regular updates and improvements without the need to replace equipment. Since then, this principle has become one of the fundamental ones for the US Air Force and Navy. It was also used in the latest F-35 Lightning II, which constantly receives software updates to improve its effectiveness on the battlefield. But the F-15 wasn't just about speed and firepower. It had range. Equipped with three 600-pound external fuel tanks, it could fly over 2,000 miles without refueling, which was simply astounding when combined with its ability to cruise without afterburners at Mach 0.9. In fact, it could quickly get to the continent where the war was headed and help end it in the air before it started on the ground. Not to mention that during its more than 50 years of flight service, the F-15 has become an absolute record holder in air combat, having shot down 104 enemy aircraft in 2008 without losses. At the turn of the 2010s and 2020s, the Pentagon and the US Air Force faced a dilemma. The F-22 production ceased in 2011 after 187 fighters were produced. And the F-35 at that time, despite huge expectations, seemed too complex, expensive to operate, and an immature aircraft. At the same time, the geopolitical situation was only getting worse. China was increasing its air fleet. Russia was promoting the export of the Su-35, and new crises were unfolding in Europe. The US Air Force needed a heavily armed air platform capable of performing a wide range of missions, including those that did not require stealth. Affordability and reliability were paramount. At that time, Boeing was actively developing the export version of the F-15QA, or Qatari Advanced, for the Qatar Air Force. A completely different aircraft with the most modern filling, advanced avionics, automated flight control systems, improved engines, and most importantly, a completely redesigned avionics architecture compatible with Open Mission Systems (MS). It was this modification that became the basis for the new and possibly the last incarnation of the great fighter, the F-15EX Eagle II. Although the Eagle II's strength and structure made it heavier than earlier versions, the digital fly-by-wire control system and the increased thrust range of the new F-110GE-129 engines producing 29,500 pounds force each gave it significantly improved maneuverability and control over older F-15s. The aircraft has become more stable not only during takeoff but also under asymmetric loads. Moreover, pilots can now perform any aggressive maneuvers without limitations on the angle of attack. In the F-15EX, engineers significantly redesigned the previous wing structure, increasing the service life of the fighters to 20,000 hours, and also took care of the greater payload capacity. Now, its maximum combat load was not the previous 15,500 pounds, but 29,500 pounds. And the number of hardpoints went from 9 to now 23. Thanks to the advanced missile and bomb ejector rack amber system, the fighter can carry up to 22 air-to-air missiles. Let's put it this way. If in a typical air superiority or escort configuration, the Eagle II carried 12 A120AM RAM or A9 Sidewinder short-range air-to-air missiles, then with the installation of extended racks and conformal fuel tanks, CFT modules, the F-15EX received at its disposal 16 small-diameter bombs, GBU-39, 4 AM120AM RAM, and 2 AGM-88 HARM. Additionally, The new Eagle II modification will be able to carry several large hypersonic munitions such as the AGM-183 Aero Airto ground ballistic missiles or the hypersonic attack cruise missile HACM, which are under active development. What the Eagle II lacked in survivability compared to the F-22 Raptor and F-35 Lightning II stealth fighters, it made up for with advanced integrated avionics and defensive countermeasure systems to improve pilot situational awareness and survivability. This included the APG-8251 radar, which combined the APG-6353 ASA antenna with the APG-795 processor, a new cooling system, and adjustable RF filters to simultaneously perform radar and electronic warfare functions when integrated with the ANLQ-250 EPA electronic warfare suite. EPOS provides all-aspect radar warning receiver function and threat geolocation and is combined with the N47 chaff and flare release system. Although Boeing did not disclose specific details about how EPA works, they described the system as recognizing enemy signals in real time, adapting to them and modifying them for use against them. The first such pod in the U.S. Air Force was called the Angry Kitten Jamming Pod. The Legion Pod's ASG-3451 ERS-21 sensor allows the F-15EX to passively detect threats, especially those that are stealthy in the radio frequency spectrum. The digital joint helmet-mounted cueing system is responsible for guiding weapons to a target at high angles of bore sight. But the introduction of the latest electronics does not prevent the Eagle II from using earlier low-altitude navigation and targeting infrared for night lantern or sniper extended range XR navigation and targeting modules to attack ground targets. This, by the way, is another advantage of the open architecture of the new modification, which facilitates not only any future upgrades but also support for previous ones. As for the numbers from 2021 to 2024, it's been changing regularly from a planned fleet of 144 fighters to 104 units. But the recently released budget for FY 2026 revealed the allocation of $3 billion for the purchase of 21 more F-15EX, which brings the total fleet to 129 aircraft. The increase in numbers comes nearly 2 months after President Trump's surprise announcement that the Michigan Air National Guard, which is losing its A-10 Warthogs, will be re-equipped with the F-15EX. Despite claims that the F-15EX will be able to control swarms of collaborative combat aircraft, CCA drones, which are being developed primarily to operate in tandem with 6th-generation fighters. The most likely scenario for the Eagle II in the near future has been and remains the role of a kind of bomb carrier for its more stealthy brethren. Because stealth fighters are forced to carry weapons internally to remain invisible to enemy radar, they're severely limited in the amount of size and weapons they can carry onto the battlefield. This is where the F-15EX comes into play as a large-scale missile truck relaying target data collected by forward-advancing stealth fighters back to the Eagle II for engagement outside the reach of enemy air defenses. The F-15EX will be especially in demand for the use of hypersonic missiles which have high-speed characteristics but unfortunately no less impressive dimensions, about 20 feet long and weighing about 7,000 pounds. After all, such ammunition simply will not fit inside the same F-35, at least until the command offers a lighter alternative. So, no matter how fancy your stealth fighter is, sometimes someone has to just do the job. And the Eagle II is one of those guys. And we highly doubt that the growing fleet of AI-powered drones will make the F-15EX's role less important. Quite the contrary. You think we'll see a hypothetical Eagle III in US Air Force service in the 2050s? Or will the fleet of these fighters still be replaced by NGAD aircraft? Let us know in the comments below. Also, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to stay in touch. See you soon.